dear teachers. This is a resource material that I have been trying to create for some time, but I finally got it ready. This is a short video for you with a brief example on how to operationalize PEI, just the planning, the specific planning for individuals or those students who have a significant curricular accommodation. So this is level 10th, it's 10th grade. This is unit 6. It's a listening. We're going to be working. I'm going to be showing a listening exercise or a listening task. So the beginning, I wanted to keep this table here because this table is basically the scope and sequence. If you see, I'm going to share the doc with you too. This document has comments. So for example, this table, it's marked. The table is scope and sequence for the unit. You don't need to add this to your plans. It's just a guide. So when you're presenting the plan, you don't need to have this at the beginning of the plan. You only have the beginning section of your plan with the goals, with the understanding, essential question, all of that information, and then of course the mediation. But you don't have to keep this. I just kept this for you to see because it's a great guide. If you see, this is unit 6 in 10th grade, and we see in week 1 we should be working with L1, L2. With those goals, then the R1 goal, the spoken production 1 goal, and their respective assessment strategies. And there's the distribution of roles and assessment strategies throughout the weeks. Also, you can find on week 5 and 6 down here. Just let me find a pointer. So on week 5 and 6, you can see we have the also some examples or what you can do for an integrated mini project, right? And also for the assessment. Remember that week 5, mostly 5 is for assessment, and 6 also, but in 6 we also have to finish the integrated mini project, which is also part of the assessment that you as teachers do in order to understand how much your students have grasped the contents and how they have developed abilities or competencies. Okay, remember we should be working phonology also during the classes. I'm preparing some material for a phonology work because there is a structure, which is very simple, but it's a structure to follow. And also phonology work in class could take from 10 to 15 minutes during the week, no more than that. But that's something we're going to be developing in the future. So on this first unit, we have a theme, which is pass or fail. And the function is the center. It's I would say, and I continue saying that it's the most important part of the plan because it's telling you what you want to develop in your students. In this case, describing feelings, emotions, and attitudes about my goals for passing and failing. All of the resting components that we have down here, for example, this course markers. We also have grammar and sentence frames. We also have the vocabulary. All of those are the vehicles to take students from 0 to 1, to take students to develop those abilities. Okay, and here we start with the plan itself. And this is the part where I added some of the information. For those of you who were present in the training sessions that we have been having on planning, so you might be used to this. This might be something you have seen. Remember, well, now we're using the updated template in which the the general competencies are included. We have to mark the one that's assigned for the specific period of time. As this is unit 6, well, it's of course going to be developed at the end of the year. And remember that for those days after September, we're going to be working with competencies for employability. Okay, first, this line down here doesn't exist. This line doesn't exist. I added this line here where we write the note. Adaptations, in this case for Oscar Abelu Valderramos, Ignacio Santos. Those are 2 students I have in my group, my 10th grade group, who have a very similar level. And they have a significant curricular accommodation. And then I have another student, Laura Chinchilla. She is a student here in Punta Arenas, and she has a lower level. So I can't group Laura with Oscar and Ignacio. That's why Laura has a different color. Let's look at the notes. I always add notes here. So, for example, you can have as many colors as levels you have in the group, or level. In the example, the teacher considers that Oscar Abelugalde and Ignacio Santos are in similar level, while Laura Chinchilla is in a lower level, meaning that Laura will need greater adaptations and consequently use a different color code. So remember the color you decided. My recommendation always is to change the font color and not highlight, because highlight charges more the contents. So down here we go down this plan, and I'm going to show you this time here. If it's 3 lessons. If you see here, it's because this was an example created originally for Colegio Técnico, for Técnica High School. But of course, if you're in an academic school, of course, you're going to be teaching 5 lessons. That's 3. That's why it's 3 and not 5. Okay, here, and I want you to pay attention to this beginning. Everything's black. I have no colors. Remember the colors for Oscar, Ignacio, and Laura? Red and blue. So down here, if you see no red, no blue, and that has little explanation here. If an activity doesn't have any specific color, it means it's done by all the group, including students with curricular accommodations. So if you have no color, I understand that there are no adaptations. And here comes the beginning or the first adaptation. You see, all students are going to be developing this goal, L1, with the respective L1 assessment strategy. Remember, a goal, it's written base form because it continues the phrase learner can. Of course, it's a modal verb, so learner can, why? Understand when people speak at a normal speed on familiar topics. There may be a need to repeat particular words and phrases. That's the goal. We have been discussing the goal would be like a very general objective. And the goals are taken from the can-do statements in Common European Framework of Reference. Then we have the assessment strategy that if we read, we analyze the title, assessment strategies, that's what they are. Those are the ones that provide us teachers with the strategies to assess if our students understand or don't understand, if they are developing abilities or not, if they are developing linguistic competences, communicative competencies or not. So they tend to be more specific. Sometimes they are not that very specific. But for example, if you check here, understand, it's more complex than recognize, because you can recognize something but not understand it. So L1 in this case is not that specific. So L1 goes as recognizes when people speak at normal speed on familiar topics. There may be a need to repeat particular words and phrases. So from this, And based on the activity we are doing, because on the first activity, remember that we have on listening, we have pre-listening, listening for the first time. And in this listening for the first time, our students are going to be recognizing what um, the video in this case is about, a video about Steve Jobs. So this is the first indicator. And look at the code. Remember, L1 for the goal and assessment strategy, and we have one letter and two numbers for the indicators. Remember, you can create your own specific indicators, or you can take those indicators from the indicators compendium that we have, the National Advisory has created for us. So L1.1 recognizes the topic when people speak at a normal speed on familiar topics. This is taken from listening for the first time. That's what students are going to do. But Abel and Oscar, in this case, Oscar Abel and Ignacio, are going to do it a little bit differently. For example, if you see I have the same color, sorry, the same code, L1.1, I just change it so that it matches what my students are going to do. In this case, Oscar and Ignacio, the indicator for them would be recognizes the topic when people speak at a normal speed on familiar topics by choosing the correct picture. That's what Oscar and Ignacio are going to do. If you see, I have red here, so I'm going to have red color here. Look at the adaptation for them. The students choose the picture that best represents the main idea of the video. They are shown 3 images. So if we look at what other students are going to do, they are going to listen and they are going to choose what the topic of the video is by selecting words. In this case, Ignacio and Oscar, they might have some problems in reading and writing. So we're going to be using images. Also remember, this is listening. This is not reading, it's not writing, it's listening. And then what about Laura? Let's see what Laura is going to do. Laura, the indicator for her is she recognizes the topic when people speak at a normal speed on familiar topics by choosing the correct picture. If you see is the same, let's see what adaptations we have for them. The student, in this case, Laura, chooses the picture that best represents the main idea of the video. She's shown only 2 images. So look at the adaptation. We have 3 images. Okay, for the whole group, we have 3 options, written options. For Ignacio and Oscar, we have 3 images. For Laura, we have 2 images, right? They are doing the same task. They are looking for a topic of the video. They are listening or watching the same video as the group, but we are simplifying the task. And that's something that we can do for all the groups. Sometimes we have a task that tends to be too complicated and you say, no, this video is too long and it's gonna take forever. My students are going to get frustrated and I'm gonna get frustrated too. Yeah, so what we can do, the first principle, remember, is adapt the task, not the text. Sometimes we can adapt text, but it's always more recommended to adapt the task first. Let's see what the comments are here. Remember to keep the same code. For example, L1.1 for indicator you create for the students with curricular accommodations. So if I have this L1.1 for the group in black font, I have L1.1 for my students with curricular accommodations. The same. So I understand and I know that this comes from this and this come from this and are a variation of this. So they need to have the same color code. Please keep that in mind. Also, sometimes the same indicator the group is using fits the adaptation. Sometimes you don't need to change anything. My recommendation is that you copy paste and change the color so that we have horizontal correspondence from here to here, right? But most of the time adaptations have to be made. And well, in this case, the created indicator should precede the indicator that originated it. That is the one that has the same color code. So please keep always, it always has to be right after. Don't move it too far away. Right after it has to be, or sometimes it's here and then we find L1.1 with a different color here. That's not the idea. The idea is that they go together, right? We have a second example on another change. This L1.2 comes from the second part of the task, which is listening for the second time. Remember, listening for the second time is always listening for more specific information. How specific? The teacher decides. You decide how specific you want to go, always considering the level of your students. L1.2, let's read the one for the group. Distinguishes the correct order of events in a person's life. So students are going to do this. They're going to watch the video and order the events, the 4 events in Steve's life. So we have 4 events. Those are going to be present in the video. So students are going to be listening and just, there should be text here. For example, event 1, Steve Jobs leaves, he drops out from school. Then here we can have, he creates his own company or, you know, but I just wrote text here. And students should only order, like writing numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what happens with Oscar and Ignacio? The specific indicator for them is distinguishes the correct order of events in a person's life by arranging pictures. So let's read the adaptation. The students order the images about the events in Steve's lives by numbering the images from 1 to 4. So you see what we're doing? Students working with text, Oscar and Ignacio working with images. Remember, this is listening. L1.2 distinguishes the correct order of events in a person's life or arranging pictures. So this is the same, the one that for Oscar and Ignacio and the one for Laura. But let's read the adaptation for her. The student Laura is given 3 pictures, not 4, and she has to order them as they are mentioned in the video. This has to is probably better changed to must. Yes. Okay. So that's generally the way in which the adaptations should look. And we're gonna look at that in a second. So in this case, the last example I wrote, in this activity, the teacher considers no major adaptations are necessary. Then he only groups curricular accommodation students with other students who could provide help and support. The teacher also monitors and offers help if necessary. So for the last activity in which it works, they have to talk about the questions, practice asking and answering the questions. Have you ever passed or failed a math exam? Or how did you feel? The teacher is going to group these students, Laura, Oscar, and Ignacio, with in a very smart way, choosing those other students who could work as tutors or mentors or just guides, right? We have the learner assessment at the end. So if you see what I did, I changed this is the indicator for the group. I just copied, keeping the same color, the indicator for the students. And well, if you see this, the same for Oscar and Laura, I can just copy this, copy paste. Oscar, Ignacio, and Laura have the same, so I can just copy paste here, and I can just go and bring the color. The format is here, so I can just copy the format, go down, and then use the same format. So we see that we are assessing the group, Oscar, Ignacio, and Laura. And here we can also, again, I left this part undone so we can do it together. If you notice, the indicator for the group is distinguishes the correct order of events in a person's life. The one for them is the same, but by arranging pictures. So I can just take it here, I copy, Control C, And that's I use slash. You can use any other thing you want, any other division symbol. I Control V. Then I'm going to do the same again, but this time because yeah, this is just for me to know that I have Laura included in this self-assessment table, and I also got ending next, right? So this is basically the way it's going to look. Well, I hope this video has been a little help for you. If you ask me, I consider this way of, and I always tell you when we have meetings, that this way of integrating the planning, specific planning for students with curricular accommodations to the group's plan. I feel it's a good way to do it. Remember the maxim. Number one, adapt the text. Sorry, adapt the task, not the text. Sometimes adapting text is necessary. And number two, we always choose, we need to have our horizontal correspondence, remember that. And also remember that if we don't have any adaptations, it's going to be black and white, and that's going to mean that these activities in black and white are for all of the group. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm going to attach this this Word document and also the PDF version to the video on YouTube, well, the link, and I'm going to upload this to Teams. Thank you very much.